Welcome to Digital PR Explained. I'm Britt Clance, and today I'm joined by Aliza Bran, Director of Media Relations at the International Spy Museum. She is also the co-lead of the communicators team over at the National Press Club. Aliza has a track record of creating buzzworthy moments for the museum. She's put together a piece on the New York Times with Mission Impossible tie-ins, and also Aliza landed a viral Wired piece that was a video on their YouTube channel, a series of videos, I should say, and we'll get to that. That became one of the outlet's biggest hits in its category. And when Aliza shared this story or like this piece with me and said that she wanted to come on the show and discuss it, what makes it all so special is that it started with a cold pitch. There was no warm introduction, no previous relationship. It was just smart, intentional outreach that turned into a long lasting media partnership. And I could go on and on. I mean, this is just such a cool guest. Aliza has such a neat gig. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Aliza.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Let's get right into that Wired win. So I'll link to it in the show notes so that people can check it out. Can you, I guess, describe what was the initial spark? Like, how did you come up with the idea to pitch Wired, and why did you think they would be the right fit? I guess this is a really good moment, too, to describe who it is that you were representing a little bit more as a representative of the museum and all of that jazz too. I don't want to give away any spoilers. I'll let you talk about the content because you're the expert. But I do highly recommend people go and check it out. I'll link to it in the show notes. It's such an interesting segment.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's funny. In public relations, there are so many things that you plan out far in advance, campaigns, strategy, and sometimes you just have a weird idea and it happens to work out. And it's hard not to love when that occurs. So I have long watched kind of silly little YouTube videos, which now again, when you look at the stats, I suppose are no longer silly little YouTube videos and have incredible impact. Um, but I had come across Wired's videos before. I'd certainly read some of their articles, and I had seen their experts go over whether it was movies, whether something was realistic or not, or um, all sorts of things, diving deeper into certain topics. And it just felt like it really fit the heart of where I worked, where I still work, which is the International Spy Museum. So, as some background, we are a nonprofit museum that has the largest collection of international espionage artifacts ever placed on public display. We also work with a lot of really incredible folks from around the world who can kind of share their experiences, historians, former intelligence officers, et cetera. Really interesting resources. And I was always looking and continue to look for opportunities to share cool stories, ways to look at the world, all of that. And so I was watching, YouTube as one does, and I thought, I should see if they would do something with us. I feel like we have people who could kind of dive into and demystify areas of espionage. Certainly, like people love a spy fiction pop culture moment. I do too. A lot of those are incredibly unrealistic depictions of what espionage looks like in real life. And that's part of what we like to do. I mean, we're really here for the true history. But I realize that people come to our content through the lens of pop culture, right? So it seemed like a good opportunity to reach out. So I did a bunch of research, as anyone does in this space. You want to know who you're going for. You want the pitch to be incredibly tailored. And so I offered a couple of options. I had said, oh, technique critique, information about I had analyzed a number of videos, so I knew exactly what I wanted to offer, who I wanted to offer, a kind of diverse cast. I think I offered three different people who had very different backgrounds, all speaking to the intelligence world in some way. And they got back to me. They connected me with the producer. The producer got excited, started having phone calls. As you can tell, I looked back at this exchange so that I could have this conversation with you because I don't remember perfectly what happened in 2018. But yeah, it became a really, really fruitful partnership.
Definitely. Well, I kind of want to put a pin in this and ask you a little bit of a specific question because I know like listeners love these types of questions. Do you
Comforting.
remember, like, how did you know who to reach out to? And can you tell us more about who that was? Because that would be my number one question. I mean, Wired has a bunch of different writers, and this is for their YouTube channel. So where do you even look to see who to contact?
Yeah, so that is the ultimate question in this space, always. I and not to answer it the same way that anyone does, which gives you no information, but I researched heavily. I looked at who was in which division within Wired. I mean, I shout out to Meltwater for doing a
Mm,
little bit of help on that, but really, honestly, most of how I defined or how I determined who I'd go after was really like Google research
okay.
and straight up stalking and open source intelligence if you're from an Intel background. But yeah, it's just really looking as deep as I could in to figure out who was on that video team, who had decision making power, also whose email address could I find, and certainly you do um, the use the name and the at wired.com. I mean, I have played that game
Right.
so many times to see if anything comes up, and sometimes it does. So you
Yeah.
have to be crafty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. No, that's good to know. I mean, everybody always wants to know, like, what tools do you use? And tools can only go so far. Sometimes they're not totally up to date. Sometimes they just don't go into the specifics that you need. But they do come in handy when you need to know that email format, that's for sure.
100%.
So, okay, so, and then you mentioned in the pitch, you offered up a bunch of different options. A lot of different questions came to mind about that pitch. Would you say your pitch was particularly long then, or
I think I kept it pretty simple.
okay?
Again, it kind of depends on who you go to and how you want to do it. I think knowing it was a video-based group,
Mm-hmm.
I figured they were more visual, but I didn't know if, photos would get pulled into spam or anything. So I just tried to be kind of strategic about it. I got straight to the point. I said, what sort of series I thought it would be. Um, we could have compelling stories and people to share for. I outlined in like bullet form three different people, really just put up their title slash expertise, and uh, yeah, it was as specific in brief as I could be. So
Okay,
we're talking like short paragraph, bullet, bullet, bullet,
that makes
close out.
sense.
Yeah.
And then the bullets. You said that you brainstormed YouTube or like video topics. So was that what consisted of those bullets or and more information on their expertise? I like to be specific and
No,
as helpful.
absolutely.
Okay, sorry, I don't mean to pry, but
No, 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 pry away. It's all good. Yeah, I think so. I started by defining what series I thought would be best and how we go about it. So I
that makes
said
sense.
up front, I think that for your video series technique critique, we could do X, Y, and Z. These are people I can connect you with who, are experts on this and can speak to the reality and the perhaps lack of reality of some of this pop culture. And then each bullet was an individual. I think afterwards I said, also, if that doesn't sound good, like these are other things you could do.
I love
Because
that.
you never
Yep.
want to shoot only one shot. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. And then my other question about the experts. I mean, it's video, right? So I'm assuming before anyone on the other end um, gets back to you, they might want to know more about what they're getting themselves into, like, and that might mean on camera talent, like how do they act on camera? Did you send video clips or examples of them on camera, or like
I
were they just
didn't.
like they just trusted you? I'm just curious. Like
No, they
that's something
they
I think
trusted
about.
me. No,
That's
no,
so
no. That's a
cool.
completely fair question. And in thinking through who I was going to offer, I was very specific. I
Right.
wanted people who were compelling on camera,
Mm-hmm.
and who could simplify kind of complicated ideas into um, simplistic understanding. Also, people who I thought watched spy movies because otherwise they have no context in it.
Right.
And as I was providing the people who I thought through, I gave examples of movies that were would have clips within their purview. So whether it
Mm.
was Disguise, we ended up going forward with the Jana one first. And I'd said, whether it's Alias or, I pulled TV shows throughout, movies. I tried to give kind of
Ah,
a
okay.
variety of options. You try to make it as simple as you can
Mm-hmm.
for the person, do a little bit of their work for them. It's always appreciated.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's a reoccurring theme in this podcast. Be a helpful
Yeah.
human.
Yep.
So, like you said, they ended up going with Jana Mendez,
Uh-huh.
who in this video in particular that I watched, gosh, she was fabulous. And spoilers here, but like she just went into so many different aspects of how they disguise themselves that just blew my mind. And the visuals were so cool. And I did see, this is kind of random, but I did see in the comments of one of the comments, someone was like, imagine what they're not telling us. Like, imagine all the things that they do that they're not talking about. And my mind was blown. And yeah, like it was just a wonderful watch, so fascinating. And I love that you shared with me too that Jana like didn't know what Wired was or what these videos were, and you had to convince her like to do this, really. So how did you approach that internal conversation and get Jana on board? Can you share more about that?
Sure. Yeah, I think I actually built a great deal of trust with her in that moment. She would say so herself. And I hope I'm not outing her by saying that, she wasn't a big Wired video watcher beforehand, but I think she'd admit that herself, so it's okay. Yeah, I explained, I gave her examples. I explained the reach, what the audience was, what I thought we could do here, and a couple different types of directions it could go. So she saw the vision, and truly, I think the more that we've worked together, we're kind of a dynamic duo at this point. So I think that was
Oh,
early on where we had just started to mesh. So it was we have a good time kind of figuring out what are the focuses, and from all of the stories she has told in front of me to me, um, I can also help direct sometimes some of the questions that people have, so that they're getting the good stuff, and not missing anything special. So it really helps to know your source as well, because then you can really serve both ends of that by supporting the resource you're providing, but also getting the good stuff out of it for the reporter.
I love that you mentioned that. I mean, this brings up a whole new conversation or angle, I guess, that isn't often discussed. How this, a moment such as this, or a win such as this, could be the foundation of a long term relationship with your source or your clients, whoever it is that you're representing, that helps build that trust and then sets it up to blossom into such a like collaborative and fruitful conversation. I mean, collaborative and fruitful um, collaboration. Yeah. And,
Take it.
you know, anyways, but like that's something that I guess isn't talked about enough because I mean, or maybe that's just my own bias because I'm always like, well, yeah, that means like this whole opportunity, it also led to such a long lasting partnership on the Wired side, but we don't often get to
Yeah.
discuss how it lends itself so nicely to that internal trust that you build with the team that you work for and with.
Yeah, I think just going off of that, you're only as good as your relationships as well as your um, information. And it's just there's no way that I'd be able to do this as well if I didn't have weird conversations about moments in history and gadgets and just things that people are saying offhand in this space. Or I'll go on a tour or I'll do something and I'll write something down. I'll think, wow, that's a really cool story. I want the longer version and maybe that's pitchable. People should know about that. So uh, again, from a fruitfulness of information and pitching standpoint, hugely important, but also the relationships you have are everything. So truly, I mean, John is one of my favorite people to work with. I really, I adore her. I also think she's brilliant and just, one of a kind in every single way. But I also, I get to work with people on our exhibits team who equally, that relationship is so important because they're great people, but also they just have this font of information. Laura Hicken on our collection staff is unbelievable. She'll pull things out that I've never seen before. And it's almost, I mean, it's like the most low-key version of Indiana Jones ever because, I'm not going into caves or doing anything crazy, but I just feel like I get to unwrap these fabulous gifts of information and then figure out how I can share that further, whether that's, a social media video, owned media kind of
Mm.
channels, or do I pitch that? Is there going to be a right place for that to land where someone um, will be as interested as I think they should be, and will tell it the way it should be told.
Yeah, and I mean, just from like back to PR and like pitching journalists and reporters and whoever these stories, it is so important. And I think you're doing a fantastic job at this to be that subject matter expert and, at least be able to speak to some basic and general questions that the journalist might have initially. Like a few people I've talked to, journalists and reporters on this podcast, have said, have just brought this up. Like, it's so important that the representative, the PR person, whoever it might be that's representing that subject matter expert, like, knows what they're talking about and isn't just phoning it in. So it's really cool to hear that, you take the time to listen and learn and that they give you that time too. I mean, that's hugely important and we couldn't do our jobs unless the people who we work with took that time, to
Yeah.
actually make sure we understand it, to educate us and to answer our dumb questions. Dumb
Hey,
questions. I
sometimes
mean,
it's the dumb ones that get the best answers, I'm telling you.
so true. It's so true. And sometimes it unlocks like an aha moment too from people who are in the weeds on that topic every day. And then it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense why you don't understand what I'm talking about because you're not doing this day to day. Like you didn't, yeah, you're not the actual expert. So,
Yeah,
um,
and you have to like fill that gap yourself. I think in my first like full-time PR job out of college, um, one of my clients, I was at an agency. One of my main clients was a lung cancer nonprofit, and the folks over there were wonderful, really sweet. But I knew that I didn't want to sound like an idiot on the phone, even though I didn't know all of the medical jargon. I don't have the scientific background, right? Um, so I read The Emperor of All Maladies. I read, which is a thick book, a great book, I should say, but not a casual read. I read the news every day on it. I became, fluent in ALK treatment versus, genomic markers. I mean, you can't pick up the phone and expect to get anywhere with people if you can't speak the language. So I think it helps not to be too deep in it. I mean, even at the museum here today, I want to know what the layman or the day-to-day person understands about our material. So it helps that I'm not, an intelligence historian, but I do have to be up on it.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Well, going back to this Wired win, you've mentioned it. It turned into a long-lasting partnership, not only with Jana, clearly, um, but also on the Wired side. Like you all did how many segments with Jana? Do you
Oh gosh,
know?
I don't know. It could
Quite a
be five
few.
or six,
Okay.
maybe four or five, and then I did two or three with other people,
Okay, well, my
maybe.
point still stands. Wired kept coming back for more.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about like what was the secret sauce there? Did you continue to pitch them? It sounds like they went straight to you with ideas, but yeah, tell us more.
Yeah, I think it was halvesies. So certainly I would go back to them if I had ideas. They also would come to me and say, hey, I remember when one of the first videos did maybe one of the best jobs on their YouTube channel. They said, wow, this was really, really successful. Not only did we have a fun time working with you guys and learning all of the things that you shared with us, but this was really, really a success from a metrics perspective. What else do you have? So I think it really on both ends was a positive experience and something that helped both of us. I mean, we wanted to get our name out there and help people better understand the subject matter, which it did. And then for them, yeah, the numbers didn't hurt. So certainly when we dove into Cold War photography and we dove into, oh my gosh, I think we did two videos that first time together. So two in one, we went all the way up to New York, not that far on Amtrak, but
Well,
I
you
was
had to
like,
travel.
Donna,
I mean, that's a
yeah.
that's a big ask, you know?
Well, I mean, and it was so much fun. I mean, I work at this wonderful nonprofit, but we don't have the kind of studio level
Right.
technology that they have at Wired headquarters. It's a beautiful setup. They have incredibly gifted people, very talented. So it was such fun to be there for, I want to say a day, 2 days or something, and just crush out the two videos. One of which where I think we did a quick change, which is basically when you totally change your look in I don't know if it's like 15 seconds, 20 seconds when you're walking through a crowd of people. You just do it piece at a time.
Oh,
And
cool.
by the time you come out of the crowd, it's done. I mean, ideally you do it in like 7 seconds, but yeah, it was so much fun. And she had like pre-tailored all of this. Her son was in the video, so she was like, well, at least I know his dimensions, so I can prepare all the pieces. So we got there
Oh.
and just had a blast. But yeah, I mean, we really so we did two in one, and then they came to us for some other things. We did even some like intelligence historian breaks down, I think, Chinese spy balloons. So there were a couple where we just kind of took on confusing subjects. So a couple years ago, we had that Chinese spy balloon that
Oh, that's
crossed
right.
the country, and people were trying to figure out what is it and what's going
Yeah.
on. So he at least was able to, our historian and curator, was able to give some background on, how
Neat.
unusual is ballooning in the spy world, all
Yeah.
of that. So, yeah, there are just so many places that we can kind of fill in.
Oh my gosh, that's really rad. Like, and just the news jacking too that you can do, right? Like,
Yeah.
so many, especially right now, timely topics I'm sure that you could come up with and pitch.
And that's what keeps it interesting. I mean, I've been here for 9 years now, and it's because it's so fun. There's so many spaces that we fit into. It's like, yeah, we're arts and culture, but we're national security, but we're,
Yeah.
no 2 days are the same. And also, where else could I have pitched a Refinery 29 article on, Taylor Swift, which is all I've ever wanted to do, was,
Tell me
I think it was
more.
like,
What was that one about? I'm so intrigued.
That one was, I think I had pitched. I'm so silly. Yeah, I had basically pitched. I love Taylor Swift. So everyone was trying to figure out, when is she going to release an album? I don't even remember at this
Okay.
point which album it was because this keeps happening throughout
Mm-hmm.
history again and again and again.
Yeah.
Um, but at some point, I was looking into it and I thought, it'd be fun to do this and pitch it as how would an intelligence analyst try to figure out the answer to this
Oh.
question?
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
would I need to find this article and read
Oh, I'll
it.
send it to you. It was
Okay.
the most fun I've ever had
That's
at
so
work.
cool. And you
Um,
could even like replicate that so many times because like Beyonce is one of those artists that people always, wonder like when's the next album? Adele, Britney Spears. Oh my gosh, Britney Spears would be so fun.
ugh, yes, yes, yeah, and you do
Wow,
it
I
through
want your
all of
job.
these
This is
things.
so cool.
Yeah, hey, you're welcome to come by anytime.
Oh
But
my gosh. It's
but
on
yeah,
my
I
list
mean,
to go to
it's like
DC.
rumor intelligence. You have like imagery intelligence. You have signals. It was just so funny to like really bring it home, I think, for people who hadn't thought about it through that lens.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's creative. I think that's the
Yeah.
fun part.
I think even just before we spoke, I didn't even think about like all of the pop culture opportunities that there are to just tie into all of this. Even though like I read through the Mission Impossible article on the New York Times, it's just there are truly so many and so many that are just beyond action movies as well, and even history. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It keeps it dynamic. I think, it's probably the same thing on the agency side. You're constantly busy. There's so much
Mm,
to do. I love being in-house because you really become an expert in what you're dealing with, get to know the people who are your resources.
hmm.
But for me, there's so much going on always in the world that touches, whether
Yeah.
it's, you know, um, spy swaps in the news or, something pop culture related, which is again much more chill than the breaking serious
Yeah,
news of it all.
definitely. Yeah.
So
And I'm sure I could see why, yeah, in a such a world full of like, somewhat downer news, it's very fun and appealing to, yeah, think more about pop culture type of topics and yeah, the more fun ones.
yeah, it's
Um,
it's kind of both. I will say, like, I think we also live in a time that's so, unnecessarily divided and so unnecessarily politicized, that it feels really important to be at a nonprofit institution where you're really just trying to help people understand what's going on around them, whether it's the history or the context of history on today. You look at the trust barometers out there, and museums are nearly at the top. Granted, nothing is doing great, but so I do feel also a responsibility to fill that gap where
mhm.
we can provide that context and expertise to try to help people understand things.
Yeah, beautifully said. I love that. I
Thanks.
love that lens. Well, just going back to everything, and I knew before we jumped on this, I was like, I'm just gonna want to go over the time limits so badly with you because this is so fascinating. I'm gonna bring it back to the topic of conversation, the Wired piece, of course. And the one thing I wanted to make sure to ask you is what advice would you give to other PRs who want to land those big lasting features but are nervous about cold pitching or just are unsure where to start?
Yeah, I mean, you always have to start somewhere. So I think read and watch a lot of news, of pop culture. Be aware of what's around you and what people are interested in. And hopefully, as you get to know the world and as you get to know your client, your organization, whatever that might be, just figure out where that Venn diagram hits. I do think there are a lot of opportunities to creatively find that middle ground between the two. And don't be afraid to shoot your shot. I think, if you write a great pitch, and I always feel this way, good writing will never be out of style. I think if you can find the right fit for the right person and you can write it out well, um, I think you have a shot. And it's hard. I mean, we're in a really saturated news market right now, so that exists as well. But but there are still opportunities, and it's worth going for them.
For sure. Great. Well, thank you so much, Eliza, for your time. I'll link to all of the clips and or the videos that we talked about, and gosh, even the Refinery 29 Taylor Swift article too, in the show notes because I'm sure people are going to want to read that. And where else can my listeners find you? LinkedIn, anywhere else?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Certainly, if anyone is in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area and comes by the press club, I'm there a lot. Trying to think. Otherwise, just find me through the Spy Museum. Come to our website. Come through the doors. Come check out the exhibit. It's so fun. And I don't say that because I'm paid to say that. I say that because it's true. And check us out on social media. That is a kind of a side tangent of the work I do right now. And it's also a lot of fun. So definitely, for those people who are in PR, who come up with really cool ideas and there's just not a right place to place it, give it to your social media person. Sometimes you can tell your own story. So know that that's there too.
Ah, love that tip. Thank you. Thanks, Eliza. Wonderful. Well, thanks again.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.